Good evening. This is Chair Dave Houghton. I would like to call this regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order, and please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance. 3, 2, 1, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we'll hear public comment for any items that are not on tonight's agenda. These items are generally referred to staff. If action by the commission is necessary, then it could be scheduled for a future meeting. City Clerk, do we have any public comment for items not on tonight's agenda?
No, we do not.
Okay. Next order of business is to consider the minutes. And before we vote, do any commissioners have comments on the consent agenda? Oh, roll. Is that on here? How about roll for tonight?
Commissioner Munoz Morris,
Here.
Commissioner Cooley,
Here.
oops, Commissioner Khan,
Here.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Here.
Vice Chair Tully,
Here.
Chair Houghton.
Here. Thank you for that. Okay, do we have any commissioners with comments on the consent agenda or request to poll? Seeing none, do we have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda?
I would move to approve consent.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion before we vote? Hearing none, please call the roll. City Clerk.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes.
Commissioner Munoz Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Khan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tully,
Yes.
Chair Houghton.
Yes. Okay, moving right along. It's time for the public hearings. Any court challenge to action taken on public hearing items on this agenda may be limited to considering only those issues raised at the public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the city of San Luis Obispo at or prior to the public hearing. If you wish to speak, please give your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Item 4A on our agenda is the public hearing item for re-review of an existing conditional use permit for the fraternity located at 720 Foothill Boulevard. So at this time, I'll ask commissioners for any disclosure of ex parte communications that may have occurred regarding this matter. I'll look first to this side, seeing none. To the side, seeing none. Okay. So would Assistant Planner Mallory Patino please present your staff report?
Hello, and thank you for having me. I am Assistant Planner Mallory Patino. I will be presenting on the fraternity conditional use permit re-review, application number use 0334-2025. I will begin with our recommendation for the Planning Commission's recommendation for the Planning Commission. Staff recommends the Commission review the existing conditional use permit for consistency with the general plan and zoning regulations to either 1, modify the conditional use permit based on updated findings and subject to revised conditions of approval, or 2, revoke the use permit. I'll start with the project site. It is zoned high-density residential R4 zoning, addressed at 720 Foothill Boulevard. It's a developed property with an apartment building containing a total of 12 bedrooms. The lot has direct access from East Foothill Boulevard. It's adjacent, surrounded by other R4 zone properties. Across the street is commercial retail, like shopping center, and it's about 3/4 of a mile walking from Cal Poly campus. In April of 1991, the Planning Commission approved a use permit for the fraternity Delta Upsilon to operate at the multifamily apartment complex, then addressed as 720 and 726 Foothill. This permit was numbered U1515. The approval limited residents to a maximum of 8 people living there and routine meetings and gatherings to a maximum of 15 people. Over the course of 1991 to 1997, there was various annual reviews and reviews and appeals relating to use of a storage area as a bedroom or a recreation room. Modifications occurred at various points. However, 2009, the property owner, which is the fraternity, proposed redevelopment of the site. Redevelopment was proposed to consist of demolishing the 2 existing residential structures that were on the site and the site improvements to construct a new multi-story fraternity building and associated parking. In June 2009, the Planning Commission approved the modification to the use permit. It was processed as U3609. This allowed the new development as a fraternity for Delta Upsilon. Approval superseded all previous use permit and modification approvals. It has been in place since 2009. Approval limited its residents to a maximum of 14 people and gatherings or routine meetings to a maximum of 21 people. However, the site has been used as a fraternity dating all the way back to 1991, not just 2009. A little background on the fraternity. The history of violations in the previous academic year, September of 2024 to June 2025, there were 5 police department citations, all for noise violations. One of these citations was successfully appealed. One of the citations did include a note that more than the maximum allowed people were present. It's 21 per condition number 8 of the use permit. Code enforcement issued a notice of violation for violating their use permit in relation to the police department noise violations. Subsequently, administrative citations were issued in February and March of 2025, issuing fines of $50 and $100, 50 in February, 100 in March, and that's in relation to the original notice of violation. The scope of this re-review is due to the violations. The conditional use permit has been brought forward to the Planning Commission, documented as application number use 0334, 2025. Condition number 9 of U3609 states that no meeting, parties, or other activities that violate our noise ordinance or exceed the maximum allowed 21 people for gatherings shall be allowed. Condition number 14 of the use permit says failure to comply with any condition or any conduct that constitutes a public nuisance may constitute grounds for revocation of the permit. Condition 13 of the use permit states that the permit shall be reviewed upon receipt of complaint by the Planning Commission. Any re-review may result in added, modified, or removed conditions or revocation of the permit. We were all here about a month ago. The municipal code changes are very similar. I'll still review them for reference here. Since 2009, municipal code has been updated for different things that relate to this topic. So requirements for approval for conditional use permits and for fraternities have been updated. Standard fraternity conditions that were updated as in the comprehensive update in 2018 related to limiting the allowed number of residents, regulating attendees for routine meetings and gatherings, requiring affiliation and good standing with Cal Poly, and establishing responsible fraternity contacts. Since 2009, there have also been updates to Title IX of the Municipal Code, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare. Code requirements are related to noise, public disturbance, other disorderly conduct. The requirements apply to all uses in the city, regardless of if there's a CUP, an MUP, or any other permit in process or applicable to a property. This section relates to, the sections related to fraternities are referenced here. They prohibit noise generating acts, unruly gatherings, and enhance penalties during specific times of the year to help protect public peace. Diving into our project analysis, as I've mentioned, the Planning Commission's role here is to consider the violations and changes to the municipal code to determine what modifications, if any, to the use permit conditions are necessary for the Planning Commission to make the required findings for continued use of the property as a fraternity, or if the Planning Commission cannot make the required findings to revoke the permit. The first option is modification of the use permit. If Planning Commission can make the findings to allow the continued use of the property as a fraternity, Accounting for the changes in the municipal code, revised conditions are shown on this slide. These conditions relate to address the recent violations, concerns for noise and loud gatherings, and to provide consistency with other recent fraternity use permit approvals. If Planning Commission can make the findings to continue, the revised conditions do not include the listed conditions on this slide. These conditions were related to property improvements, mostly due to the redevelopment in 2009, and other ARC approvals, permitting requirements at that time, and have all since been satisfied. In regards to the second option, revocation of the use permit, if the Planning Commission cannot make one or more of the required findings for continued use of the property as a fraternity, the Planning Commission may revoke the permit per Municipal Code Section 17.102.020C7. The findings required are listed in the staff report for ease of reference, and the code sections are listed on this slide. That mostly concludes. As I mentioned, our recommendation is to review the use permit for consistency with the general plan and zoning regulations or any other policy documents, and either modify the use permit with revised findings and conditions of approval or revoke the use permit. I am available for any questions, as is John Mezzapezza from Code Enforcement and Brian Amoroso, Deputy Chief of SLO PD. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patino. So, Planning Commission members, do we have questions of staff after the staff presentation? Looks pretty quiet. Okay. We have time now for the applicant presentation. In this case, the applicant is the CUP holder, which is the fraternity itself, all right? So do we have a member present? We do? Okay. You have 10 minutes, sir, and give us your name and tell us what you have to tell us.
Excellent. Well, good evening, members of the commission. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. On behalf of the Delta Upsilon Fraternity and the Alpha Upsilon Alumni Corporation, my name is Terry Reeves. I'm president of the Alumni Corporation, and that's why I've been chosen to speak to you this evening. For the last 70 years, Delta Upsilon has been a part of the San Luis Obispo community. We were founded in 1955, and through our houses that started on Garden Street, moved to Marsh, to Palm, we are now have been at Foothill Boulevard since 1991, where we feel has been the best place for us all these years. You know, and our goal since that time, and it continues today, is to develop and support young men at Cal Poly during the most formative years of their lives. You know, we all here tonight experience that and are part of our commitment back to our chapter is to allow them to experience the same things we did. So what's really changed over those last 70 years? You know, we've been part of the community all these times and all these years. The city's changed. We could say that, you know, over 70 years, has parties become more intense over the last 20, 30, 40 years? Have residents become less tolerable of the inconveniences of living in student housing or around student facilities? You know, all of those are valid, but at the end of the day, I think it comes back to the city has a student problem. We have a lot of students. There are more students in San Luis Obispo than there ever have been. The school is continually accepting more, and we want them to come. Cal Poly's great. San Luis is great. We all love coming back here. And that's why, you know, we are so passionate about our fraternity and what we do and give back. So when you look at the student population, it's not, you know, we struggle with fraternities, and fraternities give everybody a great target to look at, but we look at it as a student population problem. And the more students we have, the more are forced inside the communities, inside the residential areas, create more chances for conflict and issues between students and residents. And I think as fraternities come through this, we are the easy scapegoat, but at the same time, I think fraternities provide a lot of oversight to some of the activities that we have. Through IFC and the things that the schools put on fraternities specifically, it really puts fraternities in a better position to help be part of the solution than really the problem. Because again, we come back to the problem is more a student problem. There are a lot of students. And just because use permits go away or fraternities go away, it's not gonna solve interaction between residents and students in undesirable ways. So we, as an alumni corporation, we've been around for a long time. We have over 1,000 members and are very strong and never been stronger as a corporation and an organization that we have right now. We are very supportive and understand the seriousness of all of these issues and work as an alumni board to help educate and keep our active members informed of what the rules are. Now, at the same time, we're gonna say, we're not perfect. You know, we send our kids to college and we hope they make good decisions. Sometimes you get the phone call and you're like, guys, why'd you do that? You got to go to class or various things. It's no different here. We are a group of alumni helping mentor and bring along our young men. And there are going to be hiccups throughout the way, right? But through our mentoring and oversight, you know, we are here to help them and help the city become, you know, good residents and neighbors together. As part of that, to help facilitate that, we as an executive board are working through establishing an actual position that will be part of the city, and part of our, you know, their focus will be to work with the city, use permit, maintain that level of communication so we have continuity between the active chapters that honestly rotate every 4 to 5 years. Every 5 years, we have brand new people coming in there, and it's up to us, and we take that responsibility to keep them educated as to what they need to be doing to stay within good standings on the use permit. But really, back to where we're at, we're not perfect. We're going to be working through all of this. We want to be at the forefront of any discussion that the city has about any long-term solutions, regardless of how you decide to vote tonight. I think this is a real problem, and we as Delta Upsilon and NLF Upsilon Alumni Corp want to be at the front with the city, with the residents, making policies that we can all live by, because we all want to coexist the same way we have for the last 70 years. I think we as fraternities bring so much to the community, as outlined in some of the public comment that was submitted, and I think we want to just continue fostering that relationship to something that everybody can live with. Thank you very much. Questions for me?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reeves. You might as well hang out there for a minute, because the next thing is I'll ask commission members if they have questions of the applicant. And I'll start on this side. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Cooley.
Thank you for your statement and for appearing here tonight. If you watched previous hearings about fraternities, you may be familiar with the question I'm about to ask you.
Oh, yes.
Which is, if this commission votes to allow this permit to continue, we need to make a series of findings. We need to be able to make a series of findings. One of them that I've been stuck on before is, given the history of violations that we've heard about at this location, how can this commission be assured that continued operations will not be a detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the community?
When we look at what fraternities bring to communities, it's more than just what gets reported through a simple call to the police. You know, there are a lot of violations, a lot of calls that don't end up in violations or any citations, right? So as we go through, we're going to say we're not perfect. There's a lot of students in town. There's a lot of other noise violations going on across the town, and we are doing our best to keep our young active chapters in line. On any given day, things can happen, and we can't necessarily police that. All we can do is educate and help them understand what they do for their community and how they need to be better stewards than they have been. And that's what we're committed to continually bringing forward and helping them. It's not easy. Again, I'm not going to say we're perfect. They have a lot to work on, and we have a lot to work on with them. But I think the benefits that fraternities bring to communities far outweigh some of the nuances and nuisances that come with it at times, right? I think we look at the philanthropies and the monies and what we give back as alumni far exceed and outweigh some of the detriments that are concerning.
And just to follow up, towards the beginning of your statement, you framed it as not being, I think you said, not a fraternity problem, but a student problem. Could you expand on that, what you mean by that?
Well, I think the more students you have in a community, I mean, San Luis Obispo has, we can all look at how much housing has been built here since, I graduated in '99. Between now and then, the student population has grown significantly, and the campus is building housing. We see it all over the place. It's great. We need more of it. But until that happens, all of those students have to reside somewhere in the city, and whether not necessarily in a fraternity house, but putting more students in a denser population, it just increases the potential for incidences and conflict between the residents and students. And I don't think fraternities are unique to that. And I think that's why it needs to be looked at more of a student problem. There are a lot more students here than there were 30 years ago. And I don't think that there's housing to cover that, and it's going to cause more conflict.
Okay, thank you very much.
I see no waving of hands on this side. I have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Reeves.
Sure.
So first of all, I appreciate that you're here because in the past for fraternity discussions like this, we've had a member of the fraternity, which is also good and fine, but you appear to present some sort of continuity that persists beyond the conveyor belt of students that come through Cal Poly and the fraternities. So thank you for that. And that said, I'm unfamiliar with the corporation aspect of the Greek system. So is it an actual corporation? Are you,
yeah.
hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Are you a paid staff on that, or are you a volunteer?
No, we're volunteers. The way we are function, we hear Alpha Upsilon and Delta Upsilon. We originally were founded as Alpha Upsilon 7 years ago, but virtually the same. And so we've established a nonprofit corporation for our alumni, and it's all volunteers. I'm an alumni. Everybody on our corporation, we call it a corporation, but it's really a C3, a nonprofit C3 that we use for tax purposes. So the corporation, we call it a corporation, but it's not a business per se. It's very much a nonprofit, and that's how we operate. I'm the president, recently elected, and we have a board of directors and bylaws and a full, charter that we follow as part of that corporation.
Okay, so are you national then?
We are not national. We're local. We are a local corporation. Delta Upsilon, Cal Poly. We're only here. We are part of Delta Upsilon International, which our chapter is part of the international fraternity. It's a little different. Our alumni corporation is a separate C3 that we work as alumni and manage as alumni of Cal Poly.
So you're a local, and you live here in San Luis Obispo?
I do not live in San Luis Obispo. I live up in the Bay Area.
Okay. So, but you are the president of a California-based 501c3.
Correct.
That is a nonprofit that exists really to organize the alumni of Delta and Alpha Upsilon.
Correct.
I won't get into why there's two of them and that they're the same, even though they sound different. But, okay, so that's, all right, thank you for helping me out. Do you deal with other chapters of these fraternities in other cities, and have there been other hearings like this that you've been able to come and speak at, or have to come and speak at?
I have not been. We are very, our alumni are very local centric, right? Other chapters and other colleges, their alumni might be a little more international centric. We focus, and we exist solely to support our active chapter. We have a facility, we're landlords. We built this great house a couple years ago, and that's, we exist to support them. We bring in over $100,000 in donations locally, and we give out over $15,000 in scholarships back to our active chapters.
So are there chapters at, for example, UCLA?
There are.
And are you involved with those as
I'm
well?
not.
It's just for this
This
Cal
is
Poly
just, we are
chapter?
just Cal Poly.
Okay.
We are all Cal Poly alum.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. That's it for that I have for questions of you right now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We have, if we still have time on our thing, can we have somebody else speak on our behalf?
We stopped the clock at 6:04. I think that's allowed, right? You get your 10 minutes, so sure. Start the clock back up.
Thank you for the accommodation. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Juan Fernandez, and I'm the Active Alumni Relations Chair of Delta Upsilon at Cal Poly. My role is to help coach our graduating active members to network with fellow Delta Upsilon alumni as they prepare to enter the working world. Our alumni organization takes pride in helping our members prepare for the world post-Cal Poly. We have brothers across the globe in every industry: finance, engineering, construction management, and myself. I'm a principal engineer for Micron, building high bandwidth memory systems for artificial intelligence with Google and Meta. As you've heard previously, in April, we celebrated our 70th anniversary of the fraternity as Cal Poly's longest continually recognized fraternal organization. We had members from some of those early pledge classes from the 1950s participating in the event. Some of the attendees are in their 80s. Mr. Cockshott is from the 5th pledge class from 1961 here to speak later this evening. In addition to my role as an alumni advisor, I'm also the chairman of the Elk Grove Planning Commission. If you're not familiar, Elk Grove is a very diverse suburb with a population of roughly 180,000 people near Sacramento. Our community development director is a Cal Poly alumni. Our planning commission council is Cal Poly alumni. And one of our city council members is also a Cal Poly grad and was a member of the Sigma Nu fraternity. I'm often reminded when I take the dais for a meeting that the first time I held a gavel was as the president of the Delta Upsilon fraternity. I didn't realize at the time the leadership skills I was gaining would help me throughout my career, and they have. immensely. And that's the point I would like to leave you with this evening. Our fraternity looks to build better men and to help them gain leadership skills not learned in a classroom. Regardless of the outcome of the vote this evening, know that we are committed to working with the city to continue our 70-year legacy at Cal Poly and to be a lighthouse fraternal organization that serves as an example for other fraternities to follow. As has been discussed, our property is located in an R4 high-density residential zone along a commercial corridor and is compatible with the intended use as a fraternity chapter house. We agree with the conditions presented in the staff's report. Thank you for your consideration to amend and not revoke the use permit for Delta Upsilon. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. I do have one other question that could go either to you or to Mr. Reeves, and that has to do with the satellite houses. Can you describe a little bit how many satellite houses there are associated with Delta Upsilon, and what, if anything, happens at those satellites? Are they just residences, or are there parties there as well?
So my understanding of satellite houses is that there are some members that choose to live closer to campus, and some of them may have more than one active member living at a residence. There may be the entire population of a given house, which is a private residence not owned or leased by the fraternity, but those individual members of the fraternity, and they can have events on their own. They are not sanctioned, but I understand that that is one of the concerns of the resident group that have brought their concerns to the Planning Commission, that the satellite houses are in R1 and R2 neighborhoods, and they present a bigger issue than our fraternity house located on Foothill Boulevard. So if the satellite houses is something that needs to be discussed as part of the amendment, and I believe I saw there was a question about satellite houses, we would love to have the opportunity to discuss with the commission.
Okay, so you're saying that events or parties that happen at satellite houses that are occupied by Delta Upsilon fraternity members are not sanctioned by the fraternity?
Correct.
Okay.
It's just like any other group of
Try
students.
to swallow that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, sure. Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you, Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you.
Well, it's time for public comment now. And City Clerk, do we have any yellow slips for public commenters this evening on this item?
Yes, we do. The first speaker is James Spriggs, then Mackenzie L., and then John Hatfield.
And how many slips do we have total, just for planning?
Six.
Six,
I have
okay.
6 right now.
Okay, so the first 3 have just been called, so if your name was first in that list, you are up, you got 3 minutes, and then if you're 2 or 3, you can just be ready to speak after the first person, and we'll continue until we hear from all 6.
Okay, hello. My name is Wade Spriggs. I'm the current chapter president of the Delta Upsilon fraternity. I'm here to speak on behalf of the active chapter. I want to start by saying that every day the brothers of my chapter strive to uphold our values of building better men. We do so by completing on average 600 hours of community service. Many of those hours go back into the community of SLO and the surrounding areas. Beyond that, we have long-standing philanthropic events that raise close to $10,000 annually. Across each of our events, we donate to charities such as St. Jude, Lumina Alliance, and Canine Companions. Beyond that, I hope my presence and the presence of my brothers show a fuller picture of what we are and who we are, not just as a fraternity, but also as a group of dedicated individuals who care deeply about giving back, supporting meaningful causes, and contributing positively to San Luis Obispo community. We take pride in the service we do, the values we uphold, and the growth we foster within our chapter. While no group is perfect, I ask that we not be reduced to a list of infractions, but rather recognized for the full scope of our efforts and impact. I thank you guys for your time. Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Mackenzie, and I am the property manager for an apartment complex in the Foothill Farini Choro neighborhood that backs up to the Delta Upsilon frat house. I'm here on behalf of our 28 tenants to urge your commission to take decisive action to address the repeated noise violations stemming from the fraternity house. Over the past several years, we've experienced nearly nightly disruptions from extremely loud parties and gatherings. This includes loud booming music and people yelling and screaming. However, this is not limited to just weekend nights. The frat house has also held disruptive daytime parties with loud music, and residents yell even during casual activities like basketball games in the parking lot. These noises are so intrusive that even fully shut apartments don't protect our tenants. The noise is still heard even with all the doors and windows shut. I would like to point out that of our 28 tenants, about 2/3 are working adults, but the remaining third are Cal Poly students, including student athletes. In the time that I've been the apartment manager, we've seen the student tenants turn over usually every 1 to 2 years, and we've never had a behavior, noise, or conduct issue with any of our student tenants. We have a very quiet and respectful apartment complex overall with all of our tenants. As the apartment manager, I've received complaints from numerous tenants, both working adults and students, that the noise violations disturb their sleep, their weekends, and their work or school schedule. Despite several phone calls to the police and multiple attempts to engage with the fraternity's leadership directly, these disturbances have persisted. This is far more than an annoyance for our tenants. It's a violation of their right to quiet enjoyment and directly harms their health, well-being, and livelihood. Planning Commission, I urge you to consider revoking the fraternity's conditional use permit. Our tenants and the broader community deserve rest, peaceful days, and the ability to enjoy their home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up,
After John Hatfield, it's going to be Brad H., Lisa McKenzie, and Doug McKenzie.
Hi, my name is John Hatfield. I'm a mechanical engineering graduate from 2010. From 2010 until present, I have been member of the Alumni Executive Board for Delta Upsilon. And the reason that I've been on the board for that duration of time is trying to ensure that the same benefit of a fraternity that was given to me that really helped develop me into someone that could go out there, become a professional, and really start my career with a step up above other people that did not have that same experience, and make sure that that is guaranteed to continue on those resources for future students and future members of the fraternity. During that time, I was involved in the planning, execution of the demolition and construction of the new structure at the 720 East Foothill Boulevard, and that alone was a huge benefit to me and my growth. And again, we did that self-financed. I hope that lets you know how dedicated we are to this fraternity, this community. And during the time in school, I hope that it's understood that these members of our fraternity, they're not just students and members of the fraternity, they are working in your community. They are working in retail, they are working in service, and they're working in other areas of the community that are a benefit to them. And I hope that they are seen as part of the community, and that you choose to not revoke the conditional use permit and engage us in a thoughtful conversation on how to strengthen our community and their part in it, rather than draw a line that might push us further apart. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Hatfield. Next.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Brad, and I live in the 2-story building that backs up to the frat house, which is a 3-story building. Our bedroom windows are about 20 feet away from their building, and their parking lot extends towards us and is about 5 feet away. Some of the issues I have with them is when their parties conclude, usually between 11 and 1 a.m., there are lots of loud groups leaving that go wandering down the way, shouting around, lots of cars pulling over for pickups, Ubers called, and groups of kids running across the road. The road gets congested, cars start honking. It's like a small version of the downtown bar scene for an hour. Also, the kids sometimes jump our little wall barrier and walk through our facility and have broken some minor things. Another issue is their parking lot, which they use as an extension of their event space. They use it for basketball, set up right in front of our windows. They have set up electrified instruments and a full drum kit and played that in the parking lot. And during parties, there is urination outside on the outskirts, right under our windows. Another issue is what I assume to be their fraternity rituals that happen at random times, including 2 and 3 in the morning. On their upper floors, it sounds like some large coordinated stomping exercise. I will jolt awake to this with my window shaking. I don't know what it is, but it sounds like a fridge falling down the stairs. The whole nature of the frat house is different from a regular apartment complex. It's not random strangers, it's a group of students that all kind of do the same thing. There's always some loud outburst or party or round of basketball or drinking game or some epic sports bar-like moment that makes them very disruptive and difficult to live next to. They have left flyers with their phone numbers asking us to text them instead of calling the police, stating that, quote, when the police are called, it often causes more disruption than it prevents. Large groups tend to move outside all at once, creating more noise than the music itself, end quote. I think that's kind of self-admitting and proves their awareness of the situation they're causing. I have tried messaging them on several occasions, and they responded wanting me to be hyper-specific about exactly what is too loud, wanting to do this back and forth at midnight, turning the bass frequency of the music down, but not the actual volume. Still determined to have a party with 100 guests and somehow make it not disruptive. So those are the issues. Thank you for your time, and I hope it's revoked. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Next.
Lisa McKenzie? Lisa?
Lisa McKenzie. And earlier we heard from Mackenzie, but that's your first name? Yes. Okay.
There's 3 Mackenzies. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. My name is Lisa McKenzie. I am a proud citizen of the city of SLO. I am part of the SLO Rotary Club, and I also head up the volunteer committees for fundraising for Lumina Alliance as well as Transitions Mental Health. I want to speak on behalf of the quality of these young men and the value of having this house. As you see here, these men are ranging in all ages. This is unlike any fraternity you've seen. This is a brotherhood of men who go on to be extremely successful. These are men in very high-ranking positions in Silicon Valley, in NASA, you name it. The value of being in this fraternity, being able to gather and be together, I can't stress enough. My husband is a member of the fraternity. My son was a member of the fraternity. And I will say, before this house was built, the fraternity almost fell apart. When my son was president, I think there were 15 gentlemen in the fraternity, and they're now much larger than that. So there is a value in keeping that fraternity intact, in having a house and that place to gather, that simple place. I also want to say that anytime I have needed help in events for TEMA, for Rotary, for Lumina Alliance in particular, these men are on the spot. They'll show up in droves to help the community, to help us raise money, and they do it on their own time and using all their own time and energy. So I just wanted to speak to the quality of these young men and make sure that they're not just being reduced to a bunch of crazy loud partying people. These are young men who, as part of this fraternity, are going on to do something bigger and better, and they're extremely involved. And as you said, the other fraternities in town, you don't see that. So this is something really unique that I think should be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKenzie. And we have one more, I believe?
Yes, our final speaker is Doug McKenzie.
I see another yellow. Okay, Doug McKenzie.
All right, well, my name's Doug McKenzie. My wife stole a little bit of my thunder, which is okay. I've been a member of this organization and a Cal Poly graduate for over 45 years. I spent 33 years in the Marine Corps, and I can say without a doubt, excuse me, without a doubt that the fraternity and the organization that's here tonight has meant more to me and my life, and probably more to most of my friends who are coincidentally past fraternity members as well. So as my wife said, I've been kind of the go-to guy to get her help or volunteers, if you will, to support some of these local charities like Lumen Alliance and Transition Mental Health. And these guys always step up, and they always step up with a smile on their face. They're happy to help. They go the extra mile to get here on time and really put out the extra effort. So I just want to stress how important this organization is. It is not your typical fraternity. We have a group of men that get together every year. This past year, over Memorial Day up at Bass Lake, we had almost 150 people. And I mean members of the fraternity only, not siblings, not wives or girlfriends or anybody else. So it is a very tight group. We have a very strong influence over the active members. And if it takes us getting more involved to have them act more appropriately in the neighborhood, I know we are all willing to do that. The last thing I'll say, you had addressed some of the satellite houses. And I think the satellite houses might be a little bit of a misnomer, only because these are guys who join the fraternity. There's not enough room in the fraternity. We have over 120 active members. I think we can house 15, which is what we do. So they get together and they rent a house somewhere else. And I think to mitigate some of the parties and some of the noise and some of the problems associated with getting together on the Foothill address, they do have get-togethers at other things. That's not part of our, with our approval or our knowledge usually. I live here, I never hear about it. So I'm not sure that is an issue. It's probably an issue for you, but I don't know if that's an issue that's something within our control, unless we give them better directives on how to keep it tame. I'm happy to answer any questions, but with that, I hope that you'll reconsider and give them a positive approval for their use permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. And the format of this, the way it works, we don't ask questions of public commenters. We go through all the public comments, then we have discussions. So, but thank you for that offer. It looks like Ms. Walker is due to speak.
Yes, and then after that, it'll be Sebastian Garcia,
And is that the end of the line?
so far.
Oh, so far? Okay.
I
Hello
had
again,
not-
Ms. Walker.
Hello, nice to see you this evening. I hadn't actually planned on speaking, but I'm here just to clarify I kind of thought I'd be here just in case something came up because I'm pretty knowledgeable about the fraternity situation in San Luis Obispo. Delta Upsilon does have multiple satellite houses. You can see them on the list there. They do actually are sanctioned events at the satellite houses. They're required by Cal Poly's Greek Life Party registration policy to register every event that they have 5 to 10 days beforehand. Cal Poly is sanctioning these or approving these events before they happen. This particular one you have in front of you was an unruly gathering at their illegal fraternity house at 281 Albert Drive. While they were on probation, they weren't supposed to be having any parties. Their probation was from February 15th, 2024 through fall of 2024 for alcohol violations and other things like that. They went ahead and had the party anyway. It was cited as an unruly gathering. 300 people were there. It was issued to a member of Delta Upsilon. Despite this registration and this unsanctioned party, they sailed through probation and it was lifted 2 months later. So you can see the addresses. Another frequent offender is 388 Chaplain Lane and 1868 Loomis. That's where they have the big parties. That's where they have 200, 300 people. We can hear them from our house. This is a part, I think you're aware that I've been trying to solve this since 2022. I had a substantial report that I submitted to community development in 2023. The grand jury did an investigation on this whole issue. It's a problem. So the other thing is that the corporation was notified on January 29th about the notices, about the citations, and they went on to have more citations and more noise violations and more noise calls. So I'm not sure how effective they are because there were problems even after they got the notice of violation from the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Okay, next and perhaps final public comment.
Sebastian Garcia.
And this would be your last chance to fill out a slip if you haven't yet and you're on the fence.
Hello, and thank you to the commission for your time and the opportunity to speak. My name is Sebastian Garcia, and I'm a proud alumnus of Cal Poly, class of 2018, and a member of Delta Upsilon fraternity's 122nd pledge class. When I heard that the city had revoked use permits for other fraternities, I was concerned because I know firsthand how important Delta Upsilon is to the students in the broader community. While I can't speak for other organizations, I can tell you that we take this matter very seriously. Delta Upsilon played a major role in my success, not only in college, but in life. It provided me with critical scholarships that helped me afford my education. It gave me access to affordable housing, and it connected me with a network of mentors and professionals who helped shape my career. But more than that, Delta Upsilon is about character. Our entire mission is to build better men. We believe that helping young men grow into responsible, ethical, and community-minded adults is not just our purpose, but it's our duty. When I look at our alumni, I see business owners, community leaders, educators, fathers and husbands, good men who give back. That transformation starts in the fraternity house, where young students learn what it means to be accountable, respectful, and engaged citizens. Revoking or restricting our ability to operate as a fraternity wouldn't just limit housing options, but it would disrupt a support system that genuinely helps young men grow into better versions of themselves and ultimately strengthens our community. Every Delta Upsilon brother behind me today will tell you the same thing. This fraternity made them better men. So I ask the commission to support organizations like ours. Let's work together for the students, the university, the community, and let's continue to fostering the kind of leaders and citizens that we all want to see. I appreciate the commission's time, and I hope you take my comments into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final two speakers are Sean Graham and then Bill.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sean. I have been at Cal Poly area, the San Luis Obispo area, since 1999. I was in Delta Upsilon all the way through my college career, and I've been living in the area for the last 25 years since graduation. I spend a lot of my time volunteering at the Cal Poly Fencing Club. I teach fencing. If I wasn't here, I'd be at Meadow Park teaching people how to hit people with sticks and swords. So I just want to say I am a part of your community. I was a part of Delta Upsilon. I believe in building up the community in various ways. My way is teaching people how to fence. And I credit a lot of that to Delta Upsilon. And I think that is worth considering how all the people at Delta Upsilon help build the community they are a part of. And that's something, you guys see the noise complaints because you get that. It's a harder metric to see how they help the community. So that's what I'm here for. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. And Bill is next. And it looks like perhaps one more now after that.
After that is James Enns.
Good evening. I'm Bill Cockshott. I'm one of the earlier members of the fraternity dating back to the 1960s. I live in Arroyo Grande, and every so often my late wife and I would stop by the house to see how things are going. Ranging from earlier this spring when we had more than year 21, we stopped because it was our anniversary celebration, and we had adults stopping by for an afternoon open house and basically looking at to see what these young men are doing. And another time when we happened to stop by and they were having a fundraising function on a Saturday afternoon, I think it was for rape counseling or something like that, in which they were having a tie-dyeing celebration, which was a non-alcoholic event. They were serving soda pop and hot dogs. And the main attraction, I think, the carloads of girls showing up to meet the guys or whatever, but it was really neat seeing these young men having a great time, young couples and so forth, just having fun. And in fact, I think a couple of cops happened to stop by and they couldn't get over how basically quiet, and the fact that there was no abuse or anything like that. And I think that's something that we strive to teach as alumni members to these young people who are learning how to, basically they're learning their wings as young people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cockshott. And perhaps this is the last speaker.
Good evening, council members. I'm James Enns. I'm a local resident here. Actually met my wife at Delta Upsilon, and we both live here in San Luis Obispo, have 4 daughters here in varying stages and at varying schools, you know, within the town. So I certainly understand the concern for quality neighborhoods. I came to San Luis. I loved it. I loved my time at Cal Poly, and decided to make this home, you know, my long-term home. So I certainly see the importance of respectful neighborhoods for everyone to live in as these neighborhoods have grown. And obviously Foothill Boulevard itself has changed dramatically since the time that I was living at the fraternity house in the early 2000s. Multiple story buildings, you know, with many more residents. So obviously the interactions have changed. Certainly when we were first there, obviously it was mostly just small homes and, you know, other businesses in the surrounding area. But just want to speak to, you know, the lifelong friendships built there. Obviously, when we talk about people living together, I lived with multiple fraternity brothers at the time that I was in Cal Poly, and that wasn't necessarily because we were looking to establish something. It was simply because we wanted to live with people that we enjoyed being with, our friends. I was first introduced to most of them in the week of welcome at Cal Poly, and stayed connected to them for life since then. So just hope for your consideration about the positive impact of our fraternity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Enns. Does that wrap it up?
That was the last one.
Okay, so with the conclusion of that, we will close the public comment period, and we'll also acknowledge the public comments that were sent in in writing from Brett Cross, Heather Doss, Ms. Vujo, I always trip over that name, Mr. Reeves, and I want to acknowledge also the grand jury report, which was released this week, which is not, it's related to this topic, but it's not specifically about this issue. And so we have a pretty detailed response from the city on that report. So, and I noticed that arrived in our inboxes at 2:59 this afternoon. So we've done our best to get through that and take a look at it at least. So with that, public comment is closed, and now we enter the phase of discussion. So I will open the floor to comments and general discussion question. And Mr. Khan, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I appreciate all the testimony, written and spoken. I truly believe that this fraternity and most of the fraternities at Cal Poly, they do the fundraising, they help the community, they help their members grow up successful. It's a brotherhood. It's a fraternity making a better man, and I believe all that. I really do, and I believe you guys are all very, very, very sincere. The other issue is they have conceptual use permit, and they're making noise, and they're disrupting the community, and I think they're completely separate issues. So if someone has a conceptual use permit and they have requirements, you're required to comply with it. And if you don't, then there's the process that goes through, and that's why we're here today. So I don't see the two issues correlated. I think the fraternity should stay. I think they're great. I think my wife is a sorority lady, and she's very active in her sorority as an alumni at Cal Poly. So I'm just kind of bringing up that there has to be a way that the fraternities in this community can comply with their use permit. And I said this at the last hearings, and I'll say this at this hearing. I don't know how you have fraternities in residential neighborhoods and how they can coexist because they're completely two different type of uses. Many colleges in the United States of America have fraternity row. Berkeley does. There's fraternities in the South that have, or excuse me, universities in the South that have fraternity rows or something that can help these uses coexist in the community. And I don't have a solution sitting here today. I'm just telling you that I've heard all the speaking about what the fraternities do, and I totally believe that, and I hope it continues to happen. But that still doesn't address the violations of the the conditional use permit. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Khan. And I want to correct myself. I tripped over one of the written commenters' names, and I should have remembered this. It's Mila Vujovic Labar. I should remember her. She taught Spanish to my daughter, so didn't want to trip over that too badly. Okay, comments from, more from this side? Looks quiet. Okay, Commissioner Cooley.
I have a question for staff. Just want to clear something up. I think we heard from one of our public commenters, it may have been Mr. Garcia. He seemed to say something to the effect of, if we were to vote to revoke, that it would reduce housing options. And I wanted just to ask staff, if we were to revoke this, would it result in the residents of this location being evicted or otherwise not being able to live there?
The conditional use permit does not restrict or take away from it being a residential use first and foremost. However, this site specifically is owned by this fraternity, so I don't know how they would foresee the implications, given that this site is owned by them and the other fraternities we've discussed were not. They lease properties.
Thank you.
Okay, follow-up question?
Yeah, quick follow-up. In the event that we should recommend a revocation of the CUP, is there a path for reestablishing one in the future for this fraternity, given that they own the building?
Yes, I think, Sadie, last time you said there's a difference between revocation with and without prejudice, and that would allow for reapplication of a use permit. I don't know which one would let them reapply, but there's a path for allowing them to reapply for a new conditional use permit in the future.
Yeah, I would just say, so absent some sort of extreme circumstances, I would not recommend a revocation with prejudice. It would generally be without prejudice, meaning that the applicant could reapply for a conditional use permit. The fact that the underlying property is owned by the fraternity is sort of not really a factor in that. It's sort of the fraternity as landowner, fraternity as organization, applicant are sort of distinct for those purposes.
Great, thank you for that clarification. And then kind of lastly, follow up on that, I imagine, is there any cool-off period from revocation to a new, okay, thank you.
No.
I'm seeing, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Both of those are good because we clarified, we've been through this a month ago or whenever that was, and it does not mean that it can't be used as a residence, and that and in the previous cases where we did revoke 2 conditional use permits, we did it without prejudice, and that keeps the door open for reapplication, I think nearly immediately. And so, but they have to go through that process. Do I understand that right?
You do understand that, right? There is a fee to reapply that is potentially prohibitive, cost prohibitive, but you can apply.
How much is that fee?
It's over $10,000 at this point in time.
Yeah.
And fees go up in 5 days.
And that would be the same fee that any group would
Any
have to pay?
conditional use permit application would pay that fee.
Okay, okay. Other questions from the commission? Comments? I have my list here, so if I don't hear from you guys, I'll start talking, which you know I will do.
Well, let me then briefly get in ahead of that. So let me echo much of what Commissioner Khan said. I have no reason to doubt your sincerity. I have no reason to doubt the good works, the contributions you make to the community, Lumina Alliance, TEMA, all those things. I believe those to be true. I just do think it is also a separate issue that we're narrowly looking at a conditional use permit. And as I stated in my question, we're required to make a certain list of findings or to make those findings and find them to be true. And I'm not able to distinguish this factually from the decisions we made in recent hearings. And so I will not be supportive of modifying the conditional use permit and would at some point be willing to join or make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation to revoke.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Cooley. I'm going to talk for a bit. Unless, yeah, I don't want to.
Oh, wait, no, you were.
Okay. And then that will not be the end. And then we'll potentially have more discussion. So coming into this, we just went through this, right, a month ago. And I think that we surprised a lot of folks and perhaps even ourselves with the action that we took. And it's been sort of a mounting pressure to do something, to send some kind of a message and to take some kind of action, because has been an ongoing issue as long as I've been here in 2.5 years. And I waved some papers around from a year ago that, you know, we've been dealing with this and we've been trying to assign these conditions and to work with the fraternities and to have them be in the system rather than push them out and that sort of thing. And so, and I try to approach each of these meetings and each of these topics with a completely open mind. We did just go through this. There's a lot of similarities. And so that's a factor. It just is. I went over to the site today and took a look. It's very quiet there, of course, now because school's out. And so first I'll list a few factors that I have that kind of led me to think maybe this situation's a little bit different. One, the location on Foothill is a pretty noisy location. It's arterial. It's completely surrounded by R4. It's completely surrounded by apartments. And so the uses, there's the nearest single family R1 that I can see is a crossover on Farini, and it's several hundred feet away. So that seemed a little bit different. And the nature of the building itself and the fact that the fraternity had designed and built it specifically for this, I thought potentially was weighing in its favor. It's got a courtyard sort of in the middle, in the parking area there, and so that seems like it has the potential to kind of contain whatever noise might happen there. And I happened to talk to a neighbor, and I'm not going to mention his name, but I actually got a positive review from that neighbor who said that, yeah, they have parties, yeah, they have noise, and it's a college town, and we're not, you know, I'm not too surprised by that. And so, there was all that, and then we had several comments from the public and that were pushing towards revocation, and we're also expressing a lot of frustration with this ongoing. And some of those are some of the same commenters that we've had on the other fraternities, but none of them were very near this particular house. So I thought about that for a little bit, and then I was reminded again by Ms. Walker about the satellite problem. And I have a really hard time believing that your fraternity doesn't know what's going on in these other houses, and that there's parties that that Mr. Fernandez, I think you said, they don't even know about. That really strains my credulity. So that's part of the problem. And part of what we're doing here is trying to send some message to everyone that this needs a bigger approach to be fixed. And so, and like Commissioner Cooley, I don't see a lot of, I have a hard time making the same findings that you were referring to, about peace and enjoyment and so on. I do have a couple of questions for staff. There were 11 complaints and 5 citations over the last academic year. One of those citations was appealed. So the difference between complaints and citations, can you speak to that, Ms. Patino, and just say something about that?
Yeah, I'm actually going to ask if Brian would like to come up. He's our representative from Police Department. They're the responders on those, and they differentiate which results in a citation.
And also, just to clarify, there's 2 forms of enforcement that happen here. We've got code enforcement from the city, and we've got SLO PD that rolls when there's a police complaint, right?
Yes, and we can follow up with John if you have code enforcement.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Brian Amoroso, Deputy Chief for San Luis Obispo Police Department. Thank you to the Planning Commission for being here. Yeah, to answer your question, when the police receive noise complaints, we generally respond. We actually have student employees called SNAP, Student Neighborhood Assistance Program, that generally responds first, but they do not go to fraternities or known locations that have had prior citations. So in this situation, typically, if we would get a noise complaint there, officers would be dispatched. They would go out, so that is a complaint, right? Anything that comes into the police department generates a call for service. Officers will go out and investigate. Just because somebody calls in, I could tell you that the majority of our noise calls don't end up in a citation. The officer needs to observe the violation. It's a low-level infraction, just like you can't tell a police officer, I saw my neighbor speeding at 80 miles an hour yesterday, can you go give him a ticket? We need to on-view that violation. So officers will go out. They will, they're very knowledgeable with the municipal code and what the rules are. If they observe a violation, then they will write a citation. They could issue what's called a DAC, a disturbance advisement card. It's a written warning, but those are not issued to fraternities. That would be for other homes that haven't had a citation in the past. And if there's not a violation, they may still knock on the door, let the residents know, hey, you did get a noise complaint, you know, we're not hearing or seeing the violation, but just so you're aware, you know, if you were making noise, you might want to keep it down or whatever.
So does every call result in a recorded complaint? And some complaints result in a citation? Is that the way to look at this?
Yes.
Or not
but,
necessarily?
Well, I will say not necessarily, and that's only because we do have some situations where you might have a very large party in a neighborhood. We might get 17 calls from residents.
Right.
We don't build 17 calls for what appears to dispatchers to be everyone is calling on the same party. So they'll build one call and the rest of the callers, they'll just be told, we've already got a complaint, we've got people responding, we'll take care of it. So not every call, but every unique location call should be built, and then officers will go, or SNAP would go to investigate.
Okay, and I imagine there's a weekend in March that you get a lot of calls, so, okay. What about unruly gatherings? February 27th cited a large gathering, over 21 anyway. Is that automatically an unruly gathering, or does that have another criteria?
Unruly gathering has another criteria. Unruly gathering is really the highest criteria, and it's meant for those large parties that have large number of people, but also cause what's considered significant disturbance to the neighborhood. And there's a laundry list of items, and it might be, you know, trash strewn about the street, people parked on the sidewalks, fights breaking out, urination in bushes.
People
all
standing
of those,
on roofs.
Right. If you think of like a Hollywood movie and you would see this unreal party atmosphere, you know, that could be used for an unruly gathering. So it's not based solely on population. It's
Okay.
of the party, it's everything else going on.
Okay, and so this February 27th citation I don't think it said unruly gathering, is that right? Okay, thank you.
They're all noise violations.
Just noise, okay. And then it was also brought to our attention in one of the public comments that there was a citation for noise, or at least a complaint, on June 21st, 4 days ago. Can you confirm that?
I don't have my, unfortunately, my system
Okay.
in front of me, so I wasn't prepared off the top of my head to have all the calls.
Okay.
So I would presume that that information is accurate, but I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. I know that pretty much folks cleared out after the last finals and graduation and so on, so. And then lastly, the citation that was appealed, it was because the body camera or the noise measurement did not bear out the noise problem. And so I'm trying to picture what happens there. An officer shows up, and how do they take the noise? Is it the body camera that actually measures the noise, or is there a sound meter or something, and how does that work?
No, neither of those things are correct. So the municipal code just specifies a certain amount of feet from the source of the noise or the property line based on the time of night. Body cameras our officers wear just to record everything that's occurring. So what you have to understand, so we don't use decibel meters because the municipal code does not reference decibels for this part of the noise ordinance. There are some related to construction and other heavy machinery noise, but there is no decibel limit to our municipal code. That would actually make it super easy if there was. But the body cameras record everything that's occurring, but the technology of the body camera is designed to optimize person-to-person conversation. It's not designed to hear noise at a distance.
Okay, fair enough. There's been a couple of these that we've seen that were citations that were appealed successfully. And I think it said something like body camera, or it said that there was a technicality there that resulted in the appeal being successful. And I'm just wondering how much weight we actually give to that, or if there's a technological problem there where, well, I mean, obviously, if a citation was issued, then the officer on site thought it was a real thing. But the proof in the appeal did not hold up. Do you have anything to say about that?
Correct. So the hearing officer for the appeal was looking at the body camera as a way to say, well, I can't hear the noise, so it must not have been a violation. And so we were able to provide, working through Motorola, the manufacturer of our body cameras, some technical data to this hearing officer to help educate them to understand this is not just like setting a microphone, what your ear would pick up. The body camera is actually reducing exterior noise so that it does the same thing with wind. It does the same thing if you ever see a police incident and you'll hear gunshots and it just sounds like this weird muffled noise. It doesn't sound like a normal gunshot. It's because they're trying to minimize those certain frequencies so it can better pick up what people are saying back and forth.
It's the same thing our earpods do with noise cancellation, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So thank you for that. And it's just, when I picture an officer arriving on scene, I imagine things would get a little quieter right away, perhaps. So
they can, but we do train our officers. You don't drive up and park right in front of the house. You park a couple of houses down, you get out, you listen, see what you can hear.
Right.
And then we try to be fair when we enforce any noise violation. We understand, people are living in high density and noise is going to happen. And it's not always a violation, right? Is it sustained? What is the time of day? What is the reasonableness of it? And that's how we train our officers, to be reasonable, but to go assess, and if it's a violation, then follow our policies and procedures accordingly.
And I can confirm that you guys are reasonable, at least with the one ride-along I've done with the SLO PD, extremely courteous and patient in all respects. And I was very impressed with that. Okay. Thank you very much for all that clarification. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
So we've heard a lot today about the good of the fraternities. Nobody is debating or denying that. And we hear you loud and clear. These fraternities are important. And we've heard the phrase better men a lot. And we all believe in that, I believe, too. And so there's a few things that trouble me. We've got Mr. Fernandez and Mr. Reeves, that you're telling us that you're doing your best to instill in these young men the respect and the community values that they need to be part of this community. And that, all the good stuff and the ducky races and the contributions and everything like that, that's all great. But this is about noise and about disrupting the peace. And so those don't line up. What you're saying you're doing and trying to instill in these young men and what's actually happening as described by the neighbors, it doesn't square up. It's really difficult. And when I went out there today, I felt like, wow, this is a place that really should work as a frat house. It's surrounded by other apartments. It's kind of self-enclosed. It's on this busy street. And yet, the comments from the apartment manager, from Mackenzie, and I'm not going to go through them all here, but that aligns with many of the other comments that we've heard, and those are persuasive to me. So the result of revocation does not mean that you can't use the house anymore, and it does mean that you have to start over and apply as a fraternity. And that's where I'm headed with this too. I didn't start out thinking, oh, this is just like the other ones, and so we're just going to do that again. I've tried to really put my thought into it and take a look at this situation independently, but that's where I am as well. So I'll entertain discussion, or barring, if you're tired of talking about it, then I'll entertain a motion from the commission.
Well, I'm not seeing anyone else jumping up to comment, so I'm going to go ahead and move to adopt one of staff's recommendations to revoke the CUP without prejudice.
We have a motion and we have a second. So we have discussion on the motion that has been seconded. Any final comments? City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Khan,
Yes.
Commissioner Munoz Morris,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tully,
Yes.
Chair Houghton.
Yes.
Commissioner, I would just like to clarify that unlike the last two we did, where the decision is not final until the resolution is adopted, because the commission has voted to adopt the resolution for revocation, today's date will be the date of the planning commission's decision.
Thank you, and I appreciate that we the word either was included in your presentation, and that we actually had both written out and clearly stated. So that's as of today, as of right now, really. So, okay. That concludes item 4A, which I think is what many or most or all of you are here for. So item 4B is actually about continuing it's continuing the review of the plan development amendment to revoke the plan overlay, PD overlay, related to development project at 1144 Truro Street for 7 properties. And so that item has been continued to the July 9th meeting, 2025. And would Associate Planner Hannah or another staff member, which looks like it's gonna be Ms. Patino, like to make any comments regarding the continuation of the item? Am I doing this right?
Sure. I mean, the continuation just had to do with a new state law requiring a 20-day notice for legislative changes.
Okay. All right. So it's just a timing thing and a clock thing. Okay. Doesn't look like it. I will read this thing. As this item was noticed in the paper and postcards were sent to surrounding property owners, the commission will still accept public comment. So is there any public comment on item 4B for this PD amendment? Seeing none. City Clerk, do we have any public comment? No?
No, we do not.
Okay. I should have looked over to you instead of just out there. Okay. So, and we're near the end here. So Deputy Community Development Director Tyler Corey, would you please provide us an update on the forecast of what are we looking at down the line?
All right, thanks, Chair Cooley. I think as you mentioned, the plan development for 1144 Truro will be on the July 9th regularly scheduled meeting. So that's the only item I currently have for the 9th. And then I don't currently have any items for the July 23rd meeting at this time, so that could be canceled. And then looking out towards the end of August is likely when we will be bringing something back to the Planning Commission regarding the grand jury report on the fraternity question.
Okay. And might that be an opportunity to talk about forums or however you're supposed to say it, to get our hands around this big picture? I mean, we've been kind of wanting to do it. Well, I know council has it on their agenda for early of 26, right?
Correct. I mean, this is just a procedural requirement of the report that they're asking the Planning Commission to respond to a particular item. And they've also asked the city manager to respond to that item. And so we'll basically be presenting that to the Planning Commission as our response on that issue.
Okay. We've seen Timmy Tway's response, but there will be a city manager response as well?
Yes.
Okay. And it's in our purview to review any kind of grand jury report that comes out, or is it specifically because of this topic?
It's specifically because of this topic. They were asking the Planning Commission to look at it.
Okay, fair enough. Commissioner Cooley.
And I'm assuming just procedurally how that works is staff will come back with a recommended response and then we'll have the opportunity to discuss it and tweak it if we want.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question for Tyler. The first time I've heard about the grand jury thing was at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Can you give some context, like what is it? What are we looking at? Can you give some context to what the grand jury report is?
It's a report that looked at, over the past several months, looked at the issue of kind of the town gown issues with fraternities and neighborhood wellness issues in the community. And they interviewed staff from various departments to provide input on some of these topics that they wanted more information about. And so they issued kind of this draft report to the city. We provided what you have in your package is, or in the agenda correspondence is our detailed response, because we don't agree with all of their findings and recommendations. And they did not, is my understanding is they did not change the report based on our responses and inaccuracies that we found in there. So the report was released, in my understanding is it basically was what we saw without any modifications on the information we provided. So we will be doing some additional work to provide a more robust response to the specific items that we're required to. And one of them will be coming back to the Planning Commission.
So that report was issued on the 20th, is that right? Or earlier this week, like 2 days ago?
I think it was just came out this week.
And you guys put together that response between then and now?
That was last week. So we had a draft that came in. We had about a week to turn around a fully vetted review, and that was the product of staff's time last week.
It's quite detailed and impressive. Thank you for all whatever candles you had to burn to make that happen. Okay, anything else before we adjourn? The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is scheduled for July 9th, 2025, 6:00 p.m. right here in the council chambers at City Hall, 990 Palm Street, San Luis Obispo. We are adjourned.